I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Show all members are present. Now I get a motion.
I'll move the agenda for you.
I'll second.
Consent agenda. Oh. Grab, grab some towels. Motion by Supervisor Whitman and a second by Supervisor Shea on the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
I think Grant just beeped in.
Next up, we have Grant Anderson, MAPPA, discussion or decision to approve Cornerstone Commercial Contractors Pay Request number 4 for downtown rehab construction work in Carson/Macedonia. Grant, are you there?
Yes, good morning, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is this the last one,
Okay.
Grant?
No, so this is, we're at the halfway point, and I'm told by the contractor that the project should wrap up by the end of December, so the end of this year. There is a building in Carson that requires some structural repairs before any of the facade improvements can happen. The owners are deciding whether or not they want to continue, since the repairs will be quite a bit outside of what the project costs are. So as soon as I know more about that, we can proceed one way or the other. But from what I'm being told by the contractor, work should be able to be completed by the end of this year. So like I said, this is at the halfway point, but I think work should proceed a little bit faster, since a lot of the early work was more precise, time intensive kind of activities like tuck pointing and caulking and those types of things. So yeah, that's all I have unless there are any questions.
Will they make them tear that building down if they can't proceed with this? If it's in that bad a shape?
Well, that'll be the property owner's decision. I mean, there's nothing in the grant that would dictate what they do with it. It's going to be up to them whether they feel like it's worth whether the cost is worth it. So I hope to get a decision from them this week.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
So the pay request is for $77,602.51. And this is
46,000 of that we're requesting from CDBG, and then
Right.
the remainder would come from
Iowa West is $31,558. And you said this was halfway through, Grant?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say half, is that half the money or half the project? Or both?
Half the project. Well, I mean, it's very close to both.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Supervisor Shea, motion. Supervisor Schultz, seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we have John Rasmussen, County Engineer, discussion and or decision to accept or reject the petition to establish a secondary road assessment district on Leisure Avenue from Old Lincoln Highway to Lookout Lane and set a public hearing date for October 26, 2021 at 10 a.m. if the petition is accepted. John?
I have Gene Ehrenholtz with me. He would like to be recognized by the board to speak to this petition. I helped him organize this and get it this far, I guess.
Good morning.
Morning.
I appreciate the opportunity to address you all. Kind of fun to.
Yeah, hold on.
Pledge of
Just
allegiance,
real,
yes.
just real quick. Can you give me this?
Oh, yes, I'm right in the. Where do you want me to
No,
go?
you're fine. Name and address for the record.
Name and address.
Eugene Ehrenholtz, 25250 Lookout Lane, Honey Creek. 51542.
Okay, did you get that, Melon?
2520 Lookout Lane.
25250, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kind of interesting to do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's been a while since I've done that. But you know what? It's really an interesting to have the opportunity to have the discussion. The discussion is healthy, and all the different sides get brought up. I mean, it's great. And one little thing that we do to make that decision at the end, one nation under God, you know, in James it says, you want wisdom? Pray to God. The one we refer to, pray to God. He'll be glad to share it with you. It always amazed me how matter of fact that was. Pray to God, he'll be glad to share that wisdom with you, but you have to believe he hears you and he's going to answer you. Having said that, he kind of sets the parameters. Think about what's going on down below us in the DMV. You know, it's very rigid. And when you come in, I had a little dump truck, I didn't use it that much, but boy, they're just following all the rules and feel, you know, it's this much. It's really not open to discussion. That's very rigid. But after being here last week and hearing the presentation, it's very fluid here. And that was kind of exciting to me that you all have the opportunity and probably also the responsibility and accountability for the decisions you make and what you think and what you see for the vision of Potawatomi County and how you approach it. But when things are fluid like that, I think it becomes application specific. You know, it has to be somewhat fluid, but if it is so fluid that there's no parameters, and that's kind of where we were at the beginning of this. It was so fluid that it was kind of hard to draw up the petition. The first point I want to make, though, is that on that first half mile of Leisure Lane, I don't know if it's because it's in the bottom or that there's a spring or if it's because of all the calcium chloride, but when we get a little rain and you go down there, it's like driving through a sand pit. I mean, it just, I don't know what happens to the rock, it's just all gone, it's a slime. I'd rather drive through a sand pit. When you drive through all that calcium chloride, my SUV, it totally froze up my air suspension. Hey, but that's part of driving in the country. I'm not complaining about that. All I would like the board is to recognize the fact that that first half mile is substandard. When next time it rains, go out and you drive that half mile, and now you go drive another 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles until you find another spot that is like that. And so therein lies, to me, the first problem why I'm here. Is I would like to see that fixed. There's probably a certain responsibility for you to do it, but also for us. We owners there, I mean, it's our collective problem, right? And, but that is the reason that the first half mile is there. I know a lot of the other people are after the dust control, but for me, that substandard road is the first thing. As far as addressing the petition, after last week when the information was presented and I heard the discussion going back and forth and some of the questions that was asked to John, I thought, boy, this is more fluid than I thought. And John has done an excellent job of spelling out what it is. Boy, staying in the center of the road, not for or against, it's just like this is what it is. But it was kind of like driving in the dark with no headlights. It is so fluid. So I think one of the opportunities the board has is to maybe get some parameters there and set a precedence of what your vision is for Potawatomi County going forward. The sequence of events that happened here, Stephanie Albright, my neighbor, did the first petition and she wanted to do 3 miles. And it was a big task contacting all those people. It was parcel based and it failed miserably. We had people with 2 parcels, 3 parcels, 4, 5. We had one guy with 6 parcels. It was $8,000 a pop. For $48,000, he didn't want to pay for the road. So if it's parcel based, is one of the points that was brought up last week. That's the problem you have with parcel-based. Also, if you wanna go parcel-based, I think it's, how many parcels do you have now? I've got one little acre and a half parcel. I got 2 parcels, so I get charged twice. I don't think that's fair. But if you wanna do parcel-based, then I think you should do potential parcel-based. If somebody has land, how many could they potentially develop? If you wanna go, you can get really deep into the weeds and overthink it, I think real fast. But the parcel-based failed, and then the second one was also parcel-based, and it failed. And so I said, hey, I've got 17 mailboxes in that half mile. I got 17 people driving through that. Let's have those 17 people, what do you got to say? And I got 13 to agree to it, and those that agreed to it were emphatic, just excited about it. And then under more review, technically, I left the guy out at the end that owns a 17-acre parcel, a landowner. He doesn't live there, he doesn't have a mailbox, he's not a resident. I left him off, and John wrote it that way, but technically, we thought that was inaccurate. We needed to include him, because he was a property owner. And so my second one that I did that included him. And I went and talked to everybody again and presented it to them. And I ended up with 12 this time instead of 13 because one person was very concerned there was a 36 or 37 house subdivision going in. And, I looked it up, I ran across the term FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I mean, they use it in politics, they use it in business or whatever, it's kind of a scare tactic, let's divert from the real facts. And so I lost that person, but I've got 12 that are interested in doing it. And so the first point is, parcel-based in my mind does not work. But after that last meeting, I woke up in the middle of the night, and something was bothering me, and I thought, whoa. But it was presented this morning correctly. The opportunity you have is to accept it or reject it. Because the petition you have on that first half mile of Leisure Lane was very specifically written by me. And it was very specifically presented and very specifically agreed to and then finally signed. That's what these folks agreed to. We can't go back and accept that and then turn around and say, oh, we're not gonna do it. We're gonna base it now on parcels, not on owners. That's not the petition that's in front of you. And if that's what you're in favor of, then I'd say to reject this one and we'll try it, go around again. And the other one is that was all the majority rules. I mean, if there's a school bond issue that comes through and I'm not in favor of it, do I still get taxed? The majority rules, I haven't looked at the record, but I'll bet you all don't agree on everything. And so when you don't, hey, there has to be some way, that's why we have that flag. Now that's what it's all about. And we still can be fluid and we can keep moving forward without having 100%. And that's kind of where that stands. I've got 12 people out there that want it, and probably more if I would go back again, knowing that there's not going to be a 37 house subdivision going in. It changes things slightly, but I'd like to see that road addressed one way or another. And I knew that when I moved there, that I was on a gravel road, and I would accept just a regular gravel road, but that's a substandard. You'd be embarrassed if you were out there and driving it. It's not like the rest of the county. And so I think, you probably should chip in and pay a little more percentage. But anyway, that's kind of the short of it. And but if you don't like the petition as written, then yeah, please reject it, and we'll try it again. But I think it can fly just like it is. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve this petition,
You're accepting it.
accepting it.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you, Deb.
No.
Yeah.
Can't tell them apart.
Leanne,
Do we have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
Leanne, by accepting the petition, does that tie the hands of the board at all?
No. At the hearing, you will take input from the public. At that time, you can decide whether to go forward with it, to reject it completely, or to modify it. I do want to make clear, though, apparently last week there was a comment that if you're not in favor of a petition, you don't have to pay for it. That is not true. If the district is created then anyone is, the assessment goes on the parcel owners or the residents, depending on how it's, stated. And even if you were not in favor of it, you still would have the assessment placed on the property.
That, let me just ask another question then. On 31115, on 31115, it says that the final hearing, the board may reject, approve, or modify and approve the proposal. The board may exclude lands from the district or add lands.
Yes.
So, I mean, I guess I don't understand your statement then.
How are you going to exclude them, though? Typically, if you're excluding them, are you going to be paving in front of those lands that are excluded? That's part of the question. The other thing is, if you're excluding lands, you're probably increasing the cost to the petitioners, and that isn't what they signed up for. There's a certain amount, I think this one, it's 80% of the cost is to be paid for by the residents. So if you exclude some residents, to keep that 80%, those who signed it are going to be on the hook for more than what they've agreed to. They've agreed to a little over $5,000 in this case. Maybe now it's up to $6,000. If they would have thought, well, I'm going to pay $6,000, I'm not in favor of that. So that's another thing you're going to have to think about. If you're excluding lands, is it going to change how much the petitioners have agreed to pay? Typically, if you're excluding lands, it's because you've decided you're not going to pave the road as far as what the district was. Basically, you're changing the size of the district. So it's not that you're excluding who's going to be paying for it as much as you're changing the district size, changing the length of the road.
Would that mean the petition was non-acceptable at that point?
No. It means after the public hearing and input, you've decided that it doesn't need to be to the extent that the petition was. Accepting it basically just means it's in order, you have sufficient signatures, the property to be developed is described well enough, so you're accepting it for further information and further consideration after the public hearing.
So in this particular case, 17 landowners, 12 of them agreed, so that would be over your 50%.
Yes.
Okay.
And
We're not setting the district right now, we're just accepting the petition.
you're accepting the petition. You won't establish the district until after the public hearing.
Okay.
Is this, as the gentleman stated, John, is this road in that type of shape, that half mile where it turns to, what, lime mush or whatever it is, or?
Yeah, it's down in the bottom of a drainage, kind of up through a valley, and it's shaded and has lots of calcium chloride, so, yeah, I think springs are pretty rough out there. Calcium chloride tends to hold the moisture. When the road's drying out, and it's just trapping more moisture.
So then, I think it was something you sent to us, it would be serviced by, a truck, snowplow versus a grader in the wintertime then?
Right, so the maintenance changes from a motor grader, which are covering 80 to 100 miles around the county, so there's probably about 48 hours for us to go over the routes in snow, to a truck, and we're usually on that and have it clean within 24, depending on the size of the storm.
Okay.
I think Gene wants to speak again.
Acknowledge one quick comment.
The map, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, just the fact that,
One more shot.
okay, Whichman?
Whitman, but
I-
that's okay.
It's all right. You bring up a really good point, that if what's presented is not acceptable, that's why I'm trying to get my hands around how this transpires. I mean, my word is my bond. I mean, I do business around the world. And my word doesn't mean anything, I don't either. I cannot present this to everybody. My fear is I present this to everybody and they agree to what Gene said, and then it gets approved and goes in there, then you change it. If you want to change it, you can't change their dollar amount. I mean, I think if that's the case, then don't even look at it. I want out of it. But we can have discussion and we'll go there. I think we'll respect whatever you come up with, but you go buy a car and it's $48,000 and when they bring it to you, it's a different color and it's 64. And you can't no, you can't change it. What the people all agreed to was that $5,400. And that's why it's an accept or reject. That we can have the discussion, and at the end of the discussion, that meeting, if we change something, then I'd have to go back and re-present it, we'd have a new petition or a modified petition, But we can't force that financial increase on these people, that's not what they agreed to. That's where I would like some clarification, because I'm
Back to
confused.
the engineer's estimate. Are you pretty confident of your pricing, John?
I wish I was doing this in next year's prices, but at this time, yes.
Because we don't know what oil will be, we don't know what.
No.
Yeah, but-
And the prices are based on estimate,
Aggregate
not
will be-
accurate.
I don't see any reason why the county can't guarantee it.
The prices are
If it goes
based,
up, there's no reason we shouldn't just cover the extra costs if we're gonna make this agreement with the folks. Quite
prices,
frankly, I'm still concerned that the amount of money we pay into this road every single year just for upkeep, that the county should have more skin in the game anyway. But, I don't know, that's my 2 cents on it.
but you said the prices were based on what, John?
The estimate cost is what's gonna carry, not the actual cost. So in one of the code sections, say we go in the estimated cost,
Right, but your costs were based on
today's prices.
today's prices.
That's where that.
Or is that,
There you go,
is that,
right there, clear up to this
um,
90-degree.
defined in code that you have to do it that way, or?
Is one of the sections had an estimated cost.
Well, the section 311,
Yeah, 311.20.
You're right.
does estimated and actual cost.
Right there, that's the end of the second one. The end of the first one is where that lane goes up to the north side.
Where's our famous bridge at? Is that just right to the north of that, isn't it?
Which bridge?
Our famous Crescent Bridge is right to the north of that, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That went away as soon as it opened.
Not for me.
That was fun.
Okay.
So, I guess I'll go back to the attorneys, I guess, Leanne, on the portions that are required by the residents, or however the district, if you wanna call it that. If we're able to somehow secure grants or do anything else, is it possible to lessen their amount? Or is it they're on the hook for X amount period? And then the county's portion can only take advantage of the grant?
First off, John, is there possible grants on roads like this?
I don't think so. I haven't seen any.
Okay.
I know that if residents have an option of paying it all upfront into the county treasurer, and then if the costs are less than what was paid into the treasurer, they get reimbursed that.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but that's a slightly different procedure than what we're looking at now. One of the modifications the board could make after the public hearing would be to decrease the percent that the residents are paying. This one, I believe, is written for 80% assessment goes to the property owners. So, one of the things you could look at is decreasing that and making it cannot be less than 50%.
John,
But-
what is our portion then, based on your figures, and factor in what we pay in maintenance on that road each year?
The petitioners have got a 10-year credit on gravel for $9,400, what we plan to spend the next 10 years. Then the county participation's $25,358, about 20%, and that's based on a traffic formula, 200 vehicles a day. So the gravel maintenance cost comes off the top.
What's our annual cost each year to maintain that road?
On this portion, we're $940 a year. About a half mile.
Is the total improvement cost, the 67,000? Am I looking at the wrong?
I think you're looking at the second section of leisure.
Oh, Lookout Chalet.
This one's 126,789.
100 and, oh, okay, yeah, got it.
Excuse me.
And what'd you say last time, there was only potential for some minor subdivisions off this down the road?
Yeah, they're only allowed to do minor subdivisions on the seal
No, I
tiller.
got that, like, what's the potential for that?
I think the only one potential is probably Moran's there at the corner of Leisure and Chalet. I can go point if you want. I don't think there's too much potential on that segment than right in there. And I don't know what that terrain is either.
Pretty steep, falls away pretty quick.
And then, did you say that, is it the board or who's got the ability to tweak the interest rate?
All that stuff can be done in the public hearing. So the interest rate comes off of government website. I just halved.
Right, no, I understand.
That can be done in the public hearing. I believe it can be done in the public hearing. I have an attorney sitting next to me. I'm gonna use weasel words now, but I believe that can be done in the public hearing.
That's one of the modifications the board could make after the public hearing. I don't think you can put it at 0 though, because it
No.
does talk about with interest.
Right. Right. And this projected engineer's estimate cost was part of the petition that everyone saw and then signed or didn't sign.
Yes, the way that the section is written is the petitioners agree to a percentage before the petition comes in, and of course, nobody likes those numbers, so they want to know real numbers. So yeah, I end up doing the estimate ahead of the petition, just so they have that information.
Okay. Any other?
No, we gotta wait for our recorder.
What, do you have some problems?
I don't know, maybe.
Can't be too many people voting.
I don't wanna be out of order, I guess, with this, but I guess I'm just curious, I'm curious what the folks that are not in favor of this have to say. You know, we don't talk about it today, but I'm curious.
Or there, we'll set if we accept the petition, we'll set a public hearing date.
Yeah.
And everybody can speak.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I keep asking these questions like, what's the chance of minor subdivision? What about grants? Because despite the fact you say that you don't think there are opportunity for grants, there are actually a lot of HUD monies out there that we may be able to take advantage of. There's an infrastructure package that might pass. I mean, I won't say, I won't be slim chance, but if it does, I mean, there's gonna be monies available to do things. And if we can find ways to justify, minor subdivisions, neighborhoods, things like that, we may be able to throw dollars at this and lessen the cost for everybody. And then maybe some people who didn't sign might be willing to sign. So, I mean, I just wanna make sure we review all these avenues before we just move forward and say, yep, let's do this.
Minor subdivision's only 4, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
That's the most they can put on anything on a minor subdivision.
Maximum.
but I mean, have we considered, okay, what if we went further along down this road and paved it further? I mean, there's a million ways to crack this egg, but I just wanna make sure that we've thought through all these first before we just roll it. Because what happens is 10 years from now, all of a sudden now there's this great opportunity and all you folks that paid for this thing, there's a new neighborhood that gets built down the street and you're the ones that had to pony up that money, the developer didn't. So I wanna make sure we look at it all before we, I think, personally, I'd like paving any road if it saves maintenance costs and saves us time, helps us get other stuff then, other things done in the county. But I also don't wanna do it at someone's expense and have them lose their property over it either. I guess this district thing, I really would like to get clarification on, if we set this district as whether or not these people can be a part of it or not, because the way I was reading the code, the same way that Tim was, is that we get to decide who's a part of that and who's not, even if that looks like a checkerboard. So I'm just curious if that is the case or not. So I don't know who you can ask or where we can get clarification from there, but
Once everybody has completed their responsibility, the district just dissolves, right? They'd have to re-petition again?
Right. So the county gets maintenance of it for life after their 10-year payment, so there's a life cycle. So there wouldn't be another petitioner district established unless they wanted to do another improvement.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. So the public hearing date is October 26th, 2021 at 10 o'clock. Okay, next up, we have accept or reject the petition to establish a secondary road assessment district on Leisure Lane from Lookout Lane to Chalet Lane and set the public hearing date for October 26, 2021 at 10 a.m. if the petition is accepted.
I'm not aware if there's anybody here to speak to that. The original petitioner's not here. Basically,
The original petitioner is not here, you said?
yes.
Which is?
I always think of her email name, and I can't think of her.
Stephanie Albright.
Stephanie Albright. She lives on the corner there.
Is she on both petitions then?
Yeah, yes and no. She lives right on the, I guess she's right there. So she's right on the border. She's carrying a petition from Lookout to Chalet Lane on that one. So if the first one didn't pass, the second one definitely shouldn't, but it does check all the boxes as well.
John, there's quite a few landowners on that piece too? Or does
Yes,
that extends down that lane?
Yeah, the majority of them are on the private lane.
Does it extend east from that chalet lane?
No, it does not.
Okay.
John, my understanding, there's only 7 on this one, is that correct?
If I recall, it does. Yes.
And how many of those said yes and approved the petition?
We have 6 out of 7 on that one.
That meets the 50% requirement?
Yes.
There's also a second requirement of 75% of the owners of the lands. And both of the Leisure Lane petitions meet that requirement also.
She actually isn't on this second.
No, she's on the first one, correct?
Right.
The first
She was
petition?
included on the first one. Her property is in both sections though. So it's really kind of strange how that worked out. We probably had 4 or 5 different petitions drawn up for this area, just trying to figure out how it was gonna work. And those all failed, and Jean carried the one to Lookout Lane, and came along later with the one to Chalet. So her property is really in both districts.
Does she have to pay in both?
Not as written, right?
She's not identified in the second one, so I don't know how that.
I make a motion to accept this petition.
I'll second it. Maybe you obviously have time to,
Supervisor
with your rejected later.
Supervisor Schultz, second.
I just ask that we do this in order so that we make sure that the first one goes through before we move to get to this one. You know, it would make sense to pave road halfway down the gravel road.
Do we have the ability to combine the petitions, the board?
So any question?
Is there such a thing as us having the ability to combine these 2 petitions?
That's
Leah?
what John just asked me.
Oh,
Um,
well, you shouldn't be asking.
And again, The first petition, each resident's assessed $5,112. The second petition, everyone's assessed $6,979. I suppose it's possible to combine them and have a certain portion of the district residents paying less than others to make it one project for county roads. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I mean, it's probably gonna get done that way, right? I mean, John, you're gonna have one contractor probably doing the whole thing and probably in one shot.
I hate to go back and do that again because we'd have to start again or the petitioners would.
Well, I just think.
And they worked the first piece pretty hard and then the second one jumped on.
Right, and this is where I was getting back to my point about it. I just think it needs to be fair. And so if it's not fair, I just think the county should take the unfair part of this and make sure that it's equal for everyone on this strip. You know, so if the second half is gonna cost more, but yet it's basically the same project to the contractor, I think the county should be the one to eat the extra cost there and keep everyone else on the same footing.
So prior to the public hearing, do you want John to be looking at the total cost of both of these and figure out how much the county would have to kick in order to keep the cost the same for the first half mile? So that everyone would be paying the same amount, but I'm thinking they would want to use the lower amount, the $5,112. And that might mean that the county is paying more than just, right now they're paying 20%. I don't know how much the county would have to pay to keep the entire section at the $5,112 or less for the residents.
I get the intent. I can work on that before the public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, we got gaming dollars we can leverage against this or something to make it that way. This is not, we have much bigger expenses in the grand scheme of things, and I don't think that the county chipping in a little extra here to make it fair for the residents is a bad idea, so.
So, back to the petitioner, is it, Albright?
Yes.
So, how, is she in both districts or not?
Her property is in both districts, yes. She's only included in the first petition.
So, is her property doesn't get assessed in both petitions then, or?
No, our intent was to assess the property owner only once, so some of these people had multiple parcels in one district. She's actually one parcel in multiple districts, so she's kind of the other side of that strange coin we have here.
Okay. We have anybody else like that then? From this?
Yes. There are other parcels on the private road on Lookout Lane there that they're included on the Lookout Lane petition, but they also front the second one. I think I hear your intent, and I think I can combine these things and work it all out by the public hearing, but probably not at this moment anyway.
Okay. Any other discussion?
You can talk to Mitch, he's really good at math, he can help you figure it out.
You know how to cipher?
I guess, I'm asking you to do that anyway, just because I'd like you to take a look at our gaming dollars and see what we can, see if there's a way we can make that work and not impact our overall.
That's exactly what'll happen. So, I
Mm-hmm.
don't like it, but
Okay,
I'm not doing that.
any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, next up, we have Deb Peterson Law, discussion and or decision to accept or reject the petition to establish a secondary road assessment district on Honeysuckle Road from 185th Street to the dead end and set a public hearing for November 2nd, 2021 at 8 a.m. if the petition is accepted. Who's gonna, Deb, you taking this?
Deb, who do you represent?
I represent Josh and Lee Ryben, R-Y-B-I-N.
Okay.
I've worked with them and several of their neighbors. We've held a meeting also to try to share information as well.
Okay.
Good time to hand these to you. Good morning. I'm Deborah Peterson, attorney. My address is 215 South Main Street in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I'm here on behalf of Josh Ryben and several of his neighbors who have voted in favor of this petition. Josh, like Eugene, is kind of in the ringleader, if you will, in visiting with all the neighbors and trying to explain this. And as Ms. Gifford and I will both say, there's no case law interpreting this chapter 311 for the most part. This is something we haven't dealt with before. And so I would have to not commend your legislators for making a very clear chapter of the Iowa Code. And so Leanne and I can agree on that. There's other things we don't agree on. John has done a great job of working with the neighbors. John even came out after hours and met with the neighbors to try to explain the questions. Unlike the Eugene situation, we did not make a representation of numbers other than what John has in his figures, okay? So we didn't guarantee anybody that this is exactly how much it's going to cost and this is how it's going to be apportioned because we didn't know that. I understand what the other petitions are saying, but we did not make that representation that we guarantee this is $4,800 or whatever the number is. The handout I gave you, I believe Leanne sent to you yesterday. Basically, I mean, there's several parts of the petition, the code we can all agree on. I mean, you have a lot of authority in this. The district, I disagree with the comments that this can be a checkerboard district. It's just like, it's similar to a drainage district, a conservation district, a special assessment district in the city. When they come and they fix the sidewalk in front of our building and that street, everybody on that street pays. So I disagree that you can make the checkerboard pattern of people who don't have to pay. I think the real key here is to look at what is the real intent of this code section. What are we trying to accomplish? The purpose is providing access and good transportation routes for the residents and taxpayers who are using that road for access. As Eugene said in his neighborhood, and I haven't made it out to Leisure Avenue yet, but if that's substandard, this road is substandard too. It has a lot of problems over the time periods. So we're really looking, what is the access? Who's using it? What's it for? And the reason to allow the public to come and ask you to do this is they're saying, hey, we'll help you guys out. I agree with Gene, and I think my client and his neighbors would agree, this is your responsibility to pay for this. But in this case, we're coming to you, they're coming to you and saying, we'll pay 80% or whatever the number is in John's figures to help out the county because we see that we're getting a benefit too. And so that's the purpose of this code, is to kind of help you with your duties by putting some private monies in there. And Mr. Schultz, I agree with your assessment. If we can find some money somewhere else, that would be great for everybody. Not just these taxpayers, but all of your taxpayers in the county. This is an opportunity for you to fix a need in the county, just like it is back here. The question here that Ms. Gifford and I have disagreed on are how to count these. And how do we count the votes? How do we count the assessment? How do we count the parcels? What do we count? On this property, and the property lines aren't shown here, but let's see, we're right here.
Yeah.
So these two little pieces, this little tiny piece right here and this piece here, we're going to suggest that those just be thrown out because they do not access off of Honeysuckle. They abut Honeysuckle, but they live on the other side of 185th And they all have access from 185th. They do not have access from Honeysuckle. But regardless, we have to disagree with Eugene on the parcel argument. The parcel argument is how everything else works when we're setting up taxes. That's how we do it. If you count the parcels in the district, there are 24 if you exclude those last two, and we would have, on our petition that's submitted, there would be 12 yes votes, which would be more than be half. So that'd be the 50%. If you count the owners, this is where Ms. Gifford and I disagree. If you have 5 owners of a parcel, they should not be entitled to 5 votes because they're not going to pay 5 times. If they're going to pay 5 times, then maybe that is the way to do it. But I don't, the problem is you have, one of the cases that she sent to me said, well, you're going to have the shenanigans of people like Mr. Ryben. He doesn't probably even understand why his wife sitting next to him, why isn't she on his house deed? You don't know. They did it when they closed, and the bank probably told them, or the realtors, or whoever. But there's nothing that is going to stop him from going back to my office, and we're going to sign a deed not only to him and his wife, but we could include his brothers, his sisters, and 8 other people, so that then we get 15 votes. Is that fair? No, it's not. I think that's the burden is on you to figure out what is a fair formula for voting and assessment in the district. So if you go by owners, then you have 22 owners and 11 yes votes. So again, 50%. Sorry to tread on your math problems there, Mitch. And then there's another provision that says 50% of the owners of the parcels who reside in the county. So if you add that reside in the county part on there, then you have 24 owners, take the 2 out that don't really qualify, and there's either 2 or 4, I haven't got this all researched yet, that don't live in the county.
What section is that, Deb? Excuse me for a second. What section does that specifically say that?
Okay.
Section 7 of Lake and Section 6 of
311.6.
Garner.
Okay.
What's that?
311.6.
Oh.
Leanne, help me out with that.
End of the second paragraph.
They reside, it's into the second paragraph, reside in the county. So if you take out the non-residents of 2 or 4, either way, there's either 20 or 18 and 10 votes in favor, which still comes up to 50%. When you look at the one that the county attorney calculated and submitted, she's giving a husband and wife 2 votes on 1 parcel. And they're only going to pay, theoretically, 1 assessment if you're going to assess by parcel. So I think I will agree, I think Leanne would agree with me, and John will definitely agree, there is no clarity in this code section. And we're not going to get that anytime in the near future. Now, maybe we can, Leanne and I get together and write it up, send it up to the legislature next year, maybe 5 years from now they can straighten it out. But in the meantime, you have these residents asking you to consider this. I think it's going to be up to you and setting, this is how we're going to interpret it. This is what we believe is fair. This is the way to help us pay for our duties in improving this road. So I went through all of that. Then you've got your provisions about the board engineer or the county engineer's report, which he had already done. And it's going to be at the time of a final hearing where you're going to hear Mr. Schultz from the people who are opposed and what they think and whatever. And I'm sure that on the Leisure Avenue one, if somebody's going to be paying $6,000 instead of the $5,000 they thought they were going to be paying, they'll probably be here to tell you they don't like to do that. I do agree that at the final hearing, you can reject, approve, modify, whatever with the proposal. You can say we want to have a better road. We want to spend more money and do this. Or we're going to leave it at this. Or you can say, well, we're only going to improve it to here. You could do that. That's your option to make those decisions. I don't think that you can say, we're gonna improve it, but this one's gonna pay, this one's gonna pay, this one doesn't pay, this one pays, this one doesn't pay. I don't believe that that is the case. And that would not be fair. It really would not go to the intent of this statute. But I think at the hearing is where you can exclude those lands that don't benefit. Or if you wanted, and this kind of went to the Leisure Avenue deal, if you wanted to start here and go that way, you probably could. Does it make any sense? Probably not from the county engineer's standpoint, particularly when he's talking about the grading versus the truck snowplow. And you also have the chance at that hearing to change the percentage of participation. You cannot make the board pay more than 50%. The neighbors have to pay at least 50. These petitions are asking for 80. If you decide 70 is more fair because you can get some money from somewhere else, that's fine too. I don't think anybody's gonna complain if you charge them less. Does honeysuckle need to be approved? Yes, it does. We do have a couple of videos here I would like to show you, if Mitch would indulge us. They're very short. And Mr. Ryben is here. He actually took the videos. And the real problem that he explains, and Josh, I'll let you talk too if you can explain when the video comes on. If you'll do number 1 first, I've got it up there as number 1. This is him driving down the road. Are you driving toward 185th?
I'd have to see which
Okay.
video it is. Yes, I'm driving towards 185th.
This is Josh Ryben. Josh, what's your address?
2-1. What's our address?
21234, the killing.
Is this after a rain?
This was after, if I recall correctly, this was after the loads of dirt, or excuse me, loads of gravel, approximately 5 loads of gravel were brought in the day before.
Okay.
If I'm correct on the date. I have to see the other video to see what date it is.
Okay, then let's do number 2.
What's the date of that?
Yeah.
Is that date up there too?
Yeah, the date should be up there.
No, it was put on this file. This is where, this 100% is where we got the new gravel. As you can see, all the gravel that is sitting there, that's after we got 5 dump trucks full of gravel.
A bunch of rain, it looks like.
I don't believe.
One day.
I don't think we've had gravel on that road
Excuse
like.
me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What's the date of this video?
Josh, can you remember? It was on your
I
phone.
had it in the email that I sent.
Oh.
Give me 1 second here. I believe it was Friday to his point.
Oh, October 1. Oh, wait, the first one was from 8/31. Here's your email.
We didn't get any gravel for a while. That was that trench.
If they were transferred properly, my email states this. There's 3 videos attached. The first being from 8/31/2021, showing fairly extreme washout, valleys, ruts, and mud. The second and third are a month later on 10/1/2021, in which there was at least 5 dump trucks full of gravel, which another neighbor has the pictures of the gravel dump trucks waiting in line. They kind of did a chain gang, if you will, to drop the gravel. And the road was graded the day before I took the video as well. The third video shows an area that receives ample sunlight, yet it is still muddy and deteriorating after one time of having rainfall. The last attachment photo picture is a picture showing
That's
that
number 3, Mitch.
that in one day after the road being graded, that the gravel, which was perfectly even with the hard surface road the day before, you can confirm with the workers that did that work, has washed out onto the hard surface road of 185th. You can see where the hard surface road line is. When they left that day on Friday, that gravel was perfectly in line with the hard surface road. I mean, it looked absolutely magnificent for basically 24 hours. Because the day after it rained, that's when I took that picture on my way home that evening to show you what had happened in 24 hours after 5 dump trucks full of gravel and it being graded 24 hours before that.
So we're asking you to accept this petition and set it for public hearing. I think the date is November 2 on there.
Yes.
Yes,
Is it November 2?
that's what it
Okay.
is on the agenda.
Um,
Please don't make it any later.
And yeah, I can provide you my counts and how we figured out the counts. Leanne has provided you hers as well. I think we have met that, and as she told you, we disagree on the counts. We agree the statute is a mess, but we disagree on the counts. So we would like you to accept this petition, be back on the 2nd of November.
Ms. Peterson, where do you see in the code where it says that if the parcel doesn't have access from the road, it should be eliminated from the district?
It says maybe.
It does not say that it should be eliminated. It says that you can decide what is the district. And the intent would be for the district, we want to improve transportation for those who use it.
The other verbiage, if I could chime in, says the properties abutting to said improved road may be included.
Yes.
Not is included or are included, may be included. Given the fact that both of those properties are west of 185th, west of Honeysuckle, and they access their property, their home, from a hard surface road, is why I asked for them to be excluded. There is no entrance whatsoever for Gillett onto his very small piece of property off of 185th. The Kane Trust, I believe it is, that lives probably half a mile away from this road, give or take, they have 2 entrances onto their farm field, their cornfield, from the hard surface road of 185th. Both of those houses have zero benefit whatsoever for that road being improved. And we can show you on the map if you'd like. I can walk up to the map and show you if you'd like.
Leanne, as counsel for the board, 311.6
Yes,
requires 50% of the owners.
yes,
And in your opinion, they haven't met that,
that's correct.
okay? On the advice of our attorney, I'll make a motion to not accept the petition for Honeysuckle.
We got a motion? We got a second?
Maybe not.
Okay. Motion dies for lack of a second.
John, can that road across the dam be open?
I'll have to dig into that. I think that road was vacated when we built the ponds, way before my time. I'm sure we have a file on it. I believe the construction was such that there was a safety concern there as far as guardrails or recovery berms. That is the reason they closed it, but I don't know that for sure.
But on the other side of the dam, it is paved.
Right.
Yeah, so the paving starts about here, is that correct?
No, across the.
To your right.
To the right.
The red dot.
Where the.
Go east.
Where the honeysuckle
Have you been out?
asterisk is.
The red dot.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the next 3 miles, it is paved.
I've talked to,
On
is it,
Honeysuckle.
what's the abbreviation for the
Which is
Iowa Water Conservation?
NRCS.
Okay, I've spoke with NRCS and the person that is involved for portions of the dam on taking care of it. There's a lot of finger pointing as to who's responsible, but nonetheless, they have accepted some responsibility in taking care of that dam. I have been told directly by him that is not able to be open because there's, for lack of better words, there's channels if there's a flash flood where if the water comes up, where that water can go through and not flood our houses, but still continue the flow of water in the event of a flash flood. That goes across that road.
There's a spillway on the.
Spillway, okay?
But
It's a
the
high
road,
hazard deal.
isn't that a home spillway?
There's actually more than one,
Underneath
there's
the
more,
dike.
I'm told.
There's one on that
The whole thing is
too.
on the other side of the dam, and for the next 2 or 3 miles, Honeysuckle is paved. And they've probably, I think at last count, there were 7 people that lived on the other side of Mud Hollow. which is paved.
Right.
John, is the steepness of this road a consideration for you?
It's a concern. We have seal-coated School Hill Lane, and I don't think there's a steeper paved road in my system on that one. I think that one's about 11% grade, and this one's probably 9 or 10, coming up 185th.
How about on the other side of that hollow, going east? The steepness of those hills are.
Yeah, honeysuckle there by,
Warriors. Going east of Mud Hollow.
And get your name and address for the record.
Mike Steffes, it's 2 and 375 Lake Hill Lane.
Hey, John, were you around when they paved the other?
segment of honeysuckle?
Yeah.
Yes, I was 100% cooperation on the petition on that one, so.
Okay, so those people had that, how long ago was that?
Maybe 2008,
Okay.
just guessing.
Can I speak or not?
Yeah,
Because
say your name for the record.
Nancy
No problem.
Keeley, 18489 Honeysuckle Road, Council Bluffs, Iowa. There's spillways on both sides of Lakeview Lane. I know there's one on the west side and probably one on the east side because there's two different sections of the pond.
Yeah, you are correct.
Yeah, that's all I want to say. So I don't know
And it's paved.
what difference it would make opening the road the other direction and closing it on the west end.
I think that road's been vacated and it's part of the Soil Water Conservation District. It's
Right.
part of a PL 566, to be honest with you.
I think some of it is privately owned also.
Well, it is
So
now. Yeah, I think it went
where
back
the
to the landowner.
Road was at one time.
Because it's on the DNRs, it's one of those dams that has to be inspected, I mean,
It's a watershed.
relatively often. John, so hypothetically, would you have to get property along that road to do the maintenance on it?
Are you talking the dam portion?
Well, however you would maintain it if, going forward, if that would to be resurfaced, is it a different?
No, we have easements on that road. We'd continue on those same easements.
Okay,
It can't be connected.
what's that?
It cannot ever be connected again.
I don't think so.
There's also, if I can chime in real quick, there's also a concern about speed, where without having that break, you know, and the dead end, there's been a lot of concern on both sides of people for and against the road, in the event that was even possible, which I'm told by people that that's their job, that it's not possible, that there would be a concern about speed with the road continuing to go that much further through to the other side.
Well, you would,
I think the spillway is what the watershed, they're considered watersheds, but the spillways is a must-be thing there. But there is only one, and that's at the very dead end of Honeysuckle. There's a spillway between.
yeah, there's two.
There's two spillways on it.
Where's the other one at?
There's one up the west side, and there's also, it's a different kind of spillway. The big pond goes into it, and then it goes down on the property there. And then on your guys' side, it's actually the road that cuts through, and they paved in there, so the water flows through it. So it keeps
The
it.
ground's cut out, yeah.
Trust me, we were there
Okay, I
when it
got
was
you.
cornfields.
Yeah.
What's the board's flavor?
The only thing I'd reiterate is that we got advice from legal counsel.
Right,
According to 311.6, it says it requires 50% of the owners. In her opinion, 38 owners, so they need 19 signing, they only have 17. 311.7 requires 75%
of the owners of the land, which is 26 parcels. So they need 20 parcels to meet that threshold, and they only have 12. So, according to our legal counsel and her assessment of how these percentages fall out, is that this is a petition that doesn't meet the
If this petition sits
Code.
a week, is that gonna hurt anything?
Can I ask one question? It's a really simple, easy question. Why is this being assessed by the 38 owners, but the previous 2 petitions that you just approved were not counted in that manner?
I reviewed the 2 previous petitions. I was not concerned about the number of signatures or the number of parcels.
How could you be if you didn't
involved
total the total
This
numbers
one-
of owners like you did on this one?
Hang on.
This petition is different. There's a joke that if you're not good in math, go to law school. This is proof. We can't even agree how to count. There's a case involving drainage districts where the question came up, there were petitioners to have private trustees instead of the Board of Supervisors, take charge of this drainage district. The Court of Appeals looked at this, and this is fairly recent, August of this year, in fact. And the Board of Supervisors decided those with fractional interests would not be counted the same as those with full interest. In other words, there was one parcel there that had 13 owners. It must have been somebody died and there were 13 heirs. Then there's ones that are owned by corporations, ones that are owned by a trust, some that are jointly owned, husband and wife. We have similar things in this. And what the Court of Appeals said is basically owners mean people who have an interest in the property. So here we've got one property that is owned by 5 brothers, right? And so that's 5 owners. That's the way I'm looking at this. Now,
Are
the
they
second
getting
half
assessed
of
by
it, excuse me,
times?
Josh. The second half of it, though, is because of what Deb was talking about, that Josh could go and get, 10 people to be part of his property, and they have 10 votes suddenly. But the second part of it is 75% of the owners of the lands. And that's when you're looking at the number of parcels and how many of those owners have agreed to be in the assessment district. So that's why I looked at the Leisure Lane ones, that wasn't a problem. With this one, it's a problem both ways. You don't have 50% of the owners signing off on it, and you don't have 75% of the owners of the lands signing off on it. And that's why it was my opinion that this petition does not meet the criteria set forth in Chapter 311.
I'm gonna go back to my question again. If this sits another week, does that affect anything? Is it really gonna impact it in the grand scheme?
No.
Okay, because I'd like to, no disrespect to either one of you, but I just would like to talk to more folks about this and see if I can't wrap my head around it, because, your question about math, beyond law school, then you got to tell politicians like us. So I just think that I need to understand a little bit more about it and what it means, because at first blush, on my part, if there's one property owned by 5 people, I still think that counts as one, but I want to go through and just make sure that I'm not completely off base before I, go that direction, and,
Ms. Schultz, if I can respond to her comments, I think, if she wants to, her interpretation was looking at who is the owner, who has the beneficial interest. Well, if we're gonna look that far, then we got a whole nother question, because you have a couple of trusts that own property. Corporations are governed by boards, LLCs are governed by members, and they don't have any independent rights. But a trust, I can set up a trust, and it might have 8 people who are entitled to the current income and possession of that ground. So then that trust might be 8 people. So that fails because trusts are not public record. You can't look up my trust and see who the beneficiary of that is or who has a lifetime interest. And I think that goes against her argument. And I think the provisions for the 75% are a different type of petition. And I can look at that again and make our position known to you on that. I think it's a different requirement.
Well, just for the sake of this conversation, I personally would like to just delay this a little bit and just so I can get a little more, I need to get more clarification personally. I mean, if the rest of you wanna vote for it, go for it. It's up to you, but I think I'm gonna wait. So I'd like to delay at least 1 week so I can.
Would you like to
So
talk?
are you?
You want my phone number to call me for an
Are you moving-
opinion?
I'd like to talk, I mean,
Is that a motion to delay this, table it for a week?
Is that what you're thinking?
I'll make the motion to delay it 1 week, yes.
To table it?
To table the conversation for 1 week.
I'll second
And then I just, like I said, for discussion here, there are a handful of folks that I absolutely wanna talk to on this. Some of them are not from Pot County, similar issues across the state that I wanna just review and talk to and make sure I understand it fully before I make my personal decision on this. Now, the rest of it, it's on you, you know.
Okay, so we have a motion, to table for 1 week and a second, discussion.
No, I apologize that you're all here and hoping for an answer today, but I'll say a couple things right here, so.
Well, and I don't know that we want to set precedents, become the legal case for the rest of the thing and wait for end up saying, well, we're gonna wait for the legislature to decide this issue. Because that's taxpayer dollars too, which probably maybe could pay for part of the road and got it done and over with already, so, but.
It's just, in the time that I've been on this board, it's the first time I've seen a room packed with people with the same conversation about wanting to get something done, and I just wanna make sure we've done this thoroughly and done our part, so
Well,
that's my only counter to that.
I think
If we set a precedence, we set a precedence, what we do.
Right, but I think some of the folks here today are, all in favor and some are
Yep.
opposed, and we haven't heard those arguments yet either, so, or had those discussions. So, any other discussion about tabling it for 1 week?
You know, that, when you make that comment, Scott, that we haven't heard from pros or cons from, that only happens in a public hearing.
Right,
And in order to get to a public hearing, you have to have
right.
a petition that meets the code.
Cool.
Okay, right now, we don't,
Right,
in our legal counsel's
opinion,
opinion.
yep. So, the motion now is just to set it aside or table it for 1 week, and then we'll have that vote next week, hopefully.
Yes, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, sorry, folks, thank you. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, if you don't wanna come back next week, just so everyone's aware, you can go on YouTube and watch this as well from outside.
well.
So if you, just save you a trip down here if you don't wanna come, but if you do wanna come and give us 30 looks or whatever, that's fine too.
Oh, you're fine. I'm trying to, I don't
Well, we only got Maria. That
Oh, okay, okay, all right.
What are we doing? We just got Maria, and then we're gonna go on closed session.
How you been?
Good. You?
Fine.
Okay. Good job.
This was the same we brought last year, wasn't it?
Maria Seek, Public Health Administrator, discussion and or decision to the Fort County to pay for flu shots for part-time employees.
Through your budget.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We paid more.
What,
It's better than how much is sick people.
do we pay, for those flu shots when we give them to full-time employees?
No, public health bills them to insurance. This is just for the temporary and part-time employees that don't have that coverage.
How many,
Last year it was 6. Huh?
this year it's?
We haven't done it yet this year. We have 65 part-time or temporary employees total, but typically it's been between 6 and 15 people.
Okay, and what it costs, is it flu shot, $30 or?
It's just for the vaccine cost, that's $17.44 a vaccination. So for 6 people, it'd be $104 roughly.
Okay, last year we had no flu for whatever reason, it didn't seem like.
So about 65 ticket is gonna be $1,000.
$1,133.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, like sign, hearing none, motion passes.
God, that was easy.
Motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent J, for discussion and or decision on the purchase or sale of particular real estate.
Did you get a second there?
Schultz
Second.
made the motion. Supervisor Wickman, second. Roll call.
Chairman Bell.
Aye.
Supervisor Shea.
Aye.
Wickman.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, now we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, just get coffee.